allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the work session, January 5th, 2023, 9:30 a.m. I'll ask the Secretary Treasurer to call the roll.
William Parrish.
Present.
Ann Walker.
Here.
Edward J. Warner Jr.
Present.
Secretary Treasurer William Sellers present. President Scott
I
Horowitz.
am present.
We're all here.
All right,
You may
thank you.
continue.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have some discussions on. We'll jump right in. Trustee Welker, you have a discussion I see listed for Mecox crabbing.
I do. Just going back to.
There should be, everybody should have a letter from Bay Constable Franks
Thanks,
under your
Lisa.
work session.
That's great. Thanks for printing that out. Okay, so as it's probably like the third or fourth single sheet back in your packet. Bay Constable, Marine Patrol Officer Franks had a suggestion in lieu of, or perhaps in addition to, our proposed jump ups with the crabbing poaching that's been going on in previous years. And what he was proposing was that there be a no crabbing restriction from midnight until 5 a.m. And with that, the thought was that if anyone sees any crabbing happening during that time, it doesn't have to be Marine Patrol, it could be code enforcement, or it could be the police department as well. And we would have a broader umbrella with which to go after. Because this has been a serious problem in previous years, and we're just trying to get out in front of it and look for some alternatives. So that's something that I'd like to hear the feedback from all of you on. And then I also wanted to just relay what East Hampton is looking at, because they've had similar problems in Georgia and in other areas. So do you want to weigh in on the restrictions?
Keep going.
So East Hampton, the trustees have proposed this, and it's going to go before the town board. And what they're putting forth is that the charge will be upgraded to a misdemeanor, if there are no permits in possession. And also, if they're over limits with either no permit or shell fishing at night with no permits, it'll be an aggravated misdemeanor. The verbiage from their town attorney is coming to us, and it is going to be an ongoing discussion with East Hampton, but East Hampton's going after this very aggressively, and I just want us to do the same thing. I discussed with East Hampton, they did a sting operation last year, and that was quite productive, so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that this year, in addition to going after the permitting aspect of it as well.
So Mark, what do you think of that on the legal side, on the...
Well, I see a couple of problems, one with involving the police and another with criminalizing the action, but I'd like to talk to the East Hampton town attorney, maybe bounce a few things off and see where we can go. Code enforcement could work, and definitely a code amendment, but enforcing it in justice court with a criminal violation may be problematic, but I'll look into all aspects of it and let you know.
What about the restriction from midnight to 5 a.m. with no crabbing?
That's discretion I believe you have. We should amend section 12 of the code to reflect that first.
Yeah, that would be the first course of action.
And possibly, if you wish, a public hearing before that, because it's going to be a code amendment.
I think that would be productive. And secondly, I'd like you to look into the New York State DEC regulations as far as blue crabs, harvest limits, sizes, eggers, and what their enforcement capabilities are. Being that we're going to do this on our town end, I don't think the state would get involved as far as the time parameters, but the other stuff that I mentioned, they would definitely be involved. And once it's put in the car and it goes across the road, then it becomes a different type of a violation, you know. So, looking at what the East Hampton's doing and incorporating what we're gonna do and looking at the state, it might be the three entities kind of like commingling the regulations, but I would definitely start with the time limits of enforcement, being that they're in MECOG.
So
That should be townwide.
I don't think you can do it in the rest of the town because they would be considered migratory in MECOG's, not in MECOG's, but
That's true.
SAG.
Yeah.
In MECOG's, it's in.
In other creeks.
In the other creeks, they'd be migratory, so that would fall specifically
Because
under.
that's what's gonna happen is
The
that
DEC regulation.
They're gonna go to MECOX then at 11:30, 12. They're gonna go to the other, hit the other.
Yeah, but the
creeks.
other ones, there's no regulations under the state statutes as far as
Yeah.
time limits, as for harvesting crustaceans like that. Maybe that's a conversation we should have with the
Yeah,
state on a
state.
bigger, you know, if it's gonna be a recreational, if it's gonna be a
Yeah.
recreational enforcement versus a commercial enforcement, because they view those two aspects differently.
I did have a conversation with one of the state officers when I was down on scene with the whale situation last week, and we were kind of, we touched on this, and it seems to be going on, obviously, at various different places on the island, that this pressure on, you know, illegally harvesting these crabs and taking over the limit and too small, it's a big problem that's not just, you know, obviously limited to our neck of the woods here, so they're dealing with it at various different places.
Well, but at MECOX, at Flying Point, if you put parking restrictions,
That's happened.
you know.
They already did
They
that.
already did that, so
Yep.
that would preclude people from parking there and camping out. But I also understand that they drop 5 or 6 people off in a van with buckets, and they let them go out harvest, they call up the van to come back, and then, you know, then they take the van off-site. So harvesting, setting a harvest date, time limit would be, on top of the parking, would be I think, our best course of action.
Yeah, and I think that midnight, I think going up to midnight, because I mean, obviously, everybody has fond memories of going crabbing with their families back in the day
Yeah.
as young children, but you figure by midnight, you know, that should be, you should be pretty much, you know.
What did your mother used to say? Nothing good happens after
Yeah,
midnight?
yeah, so I think that's enough time for a family to go down there and have a good time, and
So to
And
put,
holding a public hearing, where you'd also get the, you know.
The residents.
The residents, the recreational and commercial, both parties here to discuss, you know, their thoughts on it too, because I know commercially, you might be, I mean, not that I'm a commercial crabber at night, but there might be someone that does it, and it might, you know, during the hearing process, be brought out whether they're in favor of it or not. So we might just do it as a recreational, you know, closure, but, you know, that would come through the public hearing process.
so let's plan on scheduling a public hearing at the next.
I want to do that
Yeah, you gotta
now,
do this at
'cause-
the next possible
so-
legal
So
juncture.
our next meeting,
Yeah,
Is-
we'll notice that we are going to have a public hearing on the following.
so
Right.
we'll notice it June 26th or whatever our
Yeah.
next meeting is,
And
and
then-
then we'll have the public hearing
The
on
following
July
meeting.
19th or
Yeah.
whenever that
Right,
next meeting
depending
is.
upon how that
So
goes, we
does-
could adopt.
Does that still, if we can't, would we,
We
because
could-
what
we
I'm
could-
looking at is August, right?
Well, we
Ed,
could
is-
adopt if it
is
goes
our-
well.
Yeah.
We could adopt
it
after the
that
public
day.
hearing if the public hearing
Because
goes well, right?
You'd have
It's
the resolution
full
ready
moon.
for adoption,
Correct.
and then if it goes well and
Right.
we see it favorable to adopt it, then we could do it
If
at that
If
juncture.
there's
'Cause it's-
valid objection,
Yeah.
then we could put that on hold,
Yeah.
but if it's everyone's like, hey, let's protect the resource, then
Yeah.
Okay,
you could do
so a
that.
resolution to be approved after the public hearing on that July meeting. And the height of the crabbing season is full moon in July and August, or predominantly, is it full and new moon in August?
It's usually in August is when they shed, they shed on the full moons in July, and they usually become harvestable right after that. So that would be the timeframe. So if we
Okay.
could get it done before the end of July, and have and we should have the Bay Constables either take part of the public hearing or send a representative from the town enforcement end of it to hear their side of it too,
Okay.
right? Right, Mark?
Yeah, I think that,
They could they do something written?
who would you like to be present from the town?
Somebody that would be, representing the Bay Constables, whether it's,
Supervisory or,
Yeah,
could
I
be
don't know.
supervisory, could be a captain or
Was-
I
lieutenant.
don't know
was-
what the procedure
No.
is now, but I'd just recommend reaching out to the town liaison to
Yeah.
speak with them first.
yeah, because
before
I don't want to adopt
attempting
the,
to summon the Bay
Or-
Constable.
I don't
Yeah,
think
or
we-
you could
we-
get the details, Mark, in terms of, you seem to have a pretty strong opinion on, so why don't you do that legwork?
Yep. And this is a
Save us a
recommendation that was
step.
brought by one of the Bay Constables, so.
Sure.
They probably already had internal
Correct,
conversations.
so if you could bring that to the forefront, Mark, I think that would be
Okay.
helpful. Is it pretty
And
much good for the discussion here?
I think so, at least as far as the time restrictions, and then I will follow up with what East Hampton
That's fine.
is
Yeah,
doing
the
and just
violations
keep
and
us.
fines,
Keep
Yeah.
Mark, yeah,
'cause
keep us
that's-
and Mark, obviously, since he's gonna spearhead this.
Because that's a whole nother layer that involves town board, so that'll take a little longer, but I'm glad that we're working towards this.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone.
So you have another discussion on here.
I do.
MOA for the porta potty at Peters Pond in
Yep.
Sagapon.
As you remember, the Sagapon, so in our packet, there's a printed version of the MOA that Special Counsel Lombardo has drawn up. As you remember, the Sagaponack Village mayor approached us asking for a porta potty to be installed at the Peters Pond Lane site. And they followed up after we had had a preliminary discussion and said, we'd like to put it in. And I just thought that we needed a bit more sort of guidance around this. So in looking this over, I'd circulated it to the board, I believe at least once or twice on a couple previous occasions, but I wanted to address a couple things before we submit it to Sagaponack Village for their consideration. So if you look at number 1 in the draft agreement, you'll see at the end portion of the first sentence, there's a Incorporated Village of Sagaponack for an annual rent of $1 per year. That wasn't something we discussed, so if you could
have
just,
to have consideration to have a contract, so $1 is a symbolic gesture of money changing hands to make an enforceable contract. Is that customary? Would you
Yeah.
agree, counsel?
Yeah, that's fine. We may wish to call it a license fee, but yes, that's totally fine.
so do we leave the term in rent, or do we strike it and put license fee?
I think
Does it
license,
get more complicated, Lisa, if we do license fee?
there's not
No?
much
Okay.
practical difference. It just, we want to make it look a bit more like a license and also just include language on when it's revocable.
Okay, yes, that's a really important part of this. Okay, if you move on to number 2, my impression had been that there was going to be landscape plantings in addition to a fence, but at this point, they're just proposing a fence. It will be on 3 sides, it will be
And
fairly,
just so you guys know, I believe that the back page has been left out,
right.
so Joe has it.
There's a page
So-
2 that didn't make it
Oh.
on some of the
Oh.
copies.
Right.
You guys
So-
wanna
Didn't make
pass
it on mine
on?
either, Lisa had it.
Can I have yours?
So,
Does it describe the length of time the,
What I did
One year
was, I
and-
set it
so
up,
Lisa, can you see if you can
Yeah,
find
this
that
is
and
what
I'll let
suggested,
you
5 years,
find
but-
it?
Yes,
Yeah.
every year has to be renewed, so
Okay.
that if there are
Paragraph.
issues or something, both parties can pull away from the agreement.
Bill has it,
Paragraph 8.
Bill has it. I'll print them out
Good.
and have
That's what you wanted, Eddie, so
Yeah.
that's what I put in.
Lydia bring them up.
So what, because I'm concerned about that, because their proposal was for it just to be open-ended, that it would go in and it would stay in forever, and I think that we need some definite
Yeah.
discussion at
Sure.
the end of each season.
Make
to
sure it
see
went the
how
way it was
things
supposed to,
go.
yeah.
And to make sure that they're upholding their portion of things. Garbage had been a
I did what
concern.
he asked.
It's a pilot porta potty project.
It's a pilot project. I said, I guess you don't have page 2 on yours, Ann?
I don't.
On the printout?
No,
I
I
set
have it
up
in my
as-
email.
As
If
a
it could be
5-year
sent to
agreement
us
that had to
again,
be
that'd be
renewed
great.
every year, basically,
Right.
so that if there were issues, we could either discuss, renegotiate, or terminate.
Yeah, that's good.
It reads, "This agreement shall be for a period of 1 year from the date of this agreement's execution and renewable with the parties' consent for an additional 1-year periods for an additional 4 years. Said consent shall be considered granted upon the passage of a resolution by the trustees for that express purpose." That's fine.
We have to take an affirmative action
Yeah.
every year to renew it.
That's good.
So that's good, it doesn't automatically roll, because and then the thing that is
Ann, you
in
want-
there,
you want-
was another, sure. The thing that was in there that I was concerned about was that the village has signage on it that says, call the village if there's any complaints, concerns, et cetera, and also that they have a weekly maintenance agreement for it to be emptied and cleaned.
It's in.
Yeah, so that's all in here. So I think those were the main things, but I just want to make sure that there was nothing else that,
I'm wondering if weekly's gonna be enough.
How's that gonna be
I
monitored?
had it as a minimum of once a week,
A
so,
minimum of once a week.
That
Yeah.
we make, that we know that they're going to maintain it every week and
I believe that's how I set it up. I don't know.
so what do you suggest?
I think we should.
Could we put in including, so it reads now, the village agrees that it's solely responsible for all costs associated with the public toilet, including but not limited to costs to obtain, install, rent, and maintain the public toilet. And then the second is, it agrees to have the facility serviced by the owner of the public toilet no less than once a week. So where would we insert monitoring?
I'm pretty sure if it gets filled, they're gonna empty it more than once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But who, like,
They're gonna.
checks on that?
well,
They have a
probably
schedule.
They have a schedule.
But if it needs to be done more,
Probably they probably have village crews. that-
Maybe to get a complaint on their phone number that's gonna be on the
Yeah,
side
and
of
I
it.
think I put a requirement for signage with a telephone number for
You did.
complaints to the village.
I
Yep.
know Long
Yep.
Beach is once a week.
And so, and it's good.
Yeah, once a week. They are there. cleaning.
Well,
And if it's more, they'll figure it out as the
Exactly.
program moves
Yeah.
along.
Because they don't wanna mess, cause then they'll lose the.
They're gonna lose the business.
Yeah, lose the
Oh,
opportunity.
we're gonna get all kinds of phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
We get all
The
kinds of
program
phone
is-
calls now.
We do anyway,
we're
yeah.
trying to make the program successful.
right, yeah, and that's why going through all these steps, I think, will be helpful.
Collaboration on the most basic human
We
needs
revoke it
here.
any
Yeah.
time, they don't,
I didn't put that type of language, but I can if you want something.
yeah, if they don't,
Yeah,
if
I
they're
can add
not
it.
maintaining it, we can revoke it at any time.
I think that might be an important part of things, because otherwise
Can
it
add it.
goes through the end of the year, so I think that's, yeah,
Okay.
to be added.
I'll add
And
it
then-
on.
And then, if it could be reviewed before it's submitted to the village, that would be good. Okay, does anybody else have any concerns or thoughts about this?
That covers
Okay.
I think we have.
discussed.
Okay,
I sent it to everybody.
all right, so we're just adding that. Thanks, Bill.
Look at this back there.
Lisa, you want that one back, or?
Yeah. Let me have the original one.
Because I made
Do you wanna-
notes.
Did you make notes?
I
You
made
want
notes
this
for
one to
myself.
make notes on?
I made notes for myself.
Okay.
All right, so that concludes the MOA discussion,
Yes.
porta potty for Peters Pond.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So when do we anticipate the draft going to the village?
Tomorrow?
No, to me first,
You-
Sure.
Ann
and
wants to
then,
res-
and then
yeah.
to the village.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Okay.
All right, let's go right into the general permit applications for determination. If Susan Baker, 26 Benita, and I see DKR Shores is here, I would assume representing that. Ready for your presentation, Agina?
Not really.
Not really?
I'm exhausted.
Huh?
I'm exhausted.
You're
It was
exhausted?
a long
Gotta
weekend.
bring your A game here.
Long weekend.
Still Boston's time, yeah.
I know. That's the worst weekend.
All right. Sign in and state your name.
Gina Rigdon, DKR Shores, here to represent Susan Baker. It is 26 Bonita Road, East Quogue. This is in the Shinnecock Shores development. It's a pretty typical standard bulkhead reconstruction. The bulkhead to the north is about 12 inches higher, so she's asking for a height raise to match that bulkhead.
Right, which is pretty much.
It's standard. Also, we included rock with beach grass buffer, and the existing bulkhead not only has a lot of sinkholes and very dangerous right now, but there is concrete slabs with boat davits that will be removed. So all in all, the project will be an improvement to the site. There's also a step down we're proposing to close off.
So is there lawn right up to the bulkhead at this point?
Well, you could say it's lawn, but there's sinkholes going up to the bulkhead. That was
Right,
lawn.
but there's no buffer there now?
Correct.
Okay. And how long is the linear footage of the bulkhead?
75. All the lots in there are 75 wide, so they're all standard. So it's a good improvement to the site.
You guys
And-
okay?
You all right?
Going on over there.
Something fell.
Yeah,
I hope it's just something that fell.
so a substantial improvement to the site.
Yes. Any other questions?
No, it's,
I think I still owe you plans that are stamped on this one.
Yeah, well, if it goes.
Yes, we need stamp plans. so-
Right.
Okay.
That, yeah. So
Okay.
you-
It'll be on the
So I'll
next
get on
website.
that. I'll
Right.
send the
Yeah,
CAD
because
file out.
it has to go through that step before it could go anywhere.
Okay.
You wanna do the Bozer thing while she's here?
Yes,
Do you want to do the other one? Okay.
132 Point Road, West Hampton Beach.
It's a proposed dock. It's a small dock. It's very similar to the dock to the east, but also within Blue Book regulations as far as distance to the property line, extended property line.
James, meeting all Blue Book regulations, is,
It appears so, yeah, they're 20 feet off the property line, and they're 2.5 feet of water, so.
There's a question about the,
Oh, the pilings, yeah.
you have 9-inch butt piles. I think the Blue Book only requires
8.
8.
Okay, I mean, I can change that, but generally what happens is these piles are not milled
not perfect.
exactly at 8, so they do vary. So sometimes one side is, because the tree is like that, sometimes the tree is a little wider than 8 by the time they're milled down. So I always kind of include that, because I can't control the consistency of them milling these lumber.
they don't mill them,
coming
they just cut them down and strip the bark.
Yeah,
Right, so I think that's.
they're gonna end up being 8, but I like to include it because there's just a hair
All right.
difference sometimes.
I think in this area previously, we have requested that the floating dock come out because of icing.
Seasonal
Yes.
floating dock.
And be
is
It will
stored
be
land.
seasonal there. There's a lot of ice jacking
Is-
in that area, so the ramp and the float
Is
will
that-
come out.
It'll be ruined.
Is that in the permit now? Is that in the application now?
No,
No,
but I
we need
can-
an cover sheet.
Okay.
I could
Yeah,
do
so
that. I could
it'll get
redo
ruined.
that. Actually, it is. It says seasonal,
Oh,
actually
seasonal, right.
on the plan,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we
So,
want
but
it on
needs
the, on the,
but I could put it
It
on
should be.
the.
as the
And
character of work
cover.
or a special condition, so
No,
that way.
it's in the description, so
It
it'll
is?
be.
It
right
should
on
be
the-
in the
Just
description.
get it all to match, just get everything to match, so it's
Stored
clear.
seas- Oh, it actually does say ramp and float to be stored seasonally in an upland location.
On the
It's
plans.
actually
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
description.
Okay.
She's good.
Okay.
But yes, good point. Brought it up.
And these plans are stamped,
Yes.
so
We can
you're
move
good
ahead.
to advance them.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll get
All
you
right.
the stamp.
That's all you have with us
That's
today,
all I
right?
have.
All right, so then I have Enviro permits for 19 Shinnecock Road LLC. Good morning, all.
Morning, Clay.
Okay, today I'm a little hearing impaired, had an accident with my hearing aid.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
A
that.
good one, and it didn't survive. And I could have went to the doctor today, but I'm here, but I'll go tomorrow.
Representing your
We're happy
company.
you're here.
Please sign in and state your name for the record.
Clay Cofield, Viral Permits, I'm here representing Dave McWilliams for 19 Shinnecock Road Enterprise LLC.
Okay, so you're asking for a replacement of an existing 75-foot bulkhead, Navy style, vinyl. You're asking for 18 inches and a beach staircase, 2 8-foot returns, and 5 cubic yards of clean fill landward, and a replant. We're going to use all non-treated material.
Right. Yes, we are asking for that. He also currently has a building permit with the town to replace the house. The house has been raised, and he wants to put this in before he starts on the house, which makes sense.
So, yeah, but the question is just on the 18. We're not sure that that makes sense. The elevation, when you kind of get on site, especially with the house being raised relative to its relationship to the adjoining properties, I'm not sure. I don't know, can you take a closer look at that?
Yes. The general tendency with all DEC permits is to raise the elevation, to cut down the amount of water that flows in to the to the properties, to the roads, and it's their way of raising up the entire shoreline of the state of New York to prevent flooding to some degree. So this is included in all DEC permits.
Right, we recognize that, but we always look at the site-specific conditions
True.
to the area, so what you're gonna have to do, Clay, is you're gonna have to get us a number.
Well, you give me the number.
Well, why don't we, I want to exceed you raising the house, and you got a whole plan going on. I'd rather collaboratively work with you on what's gonna make best sense for that site, because the 18 may create some issues, especially when you're only bringing in that small amount of fill and the adjoining property. So I think maybe to do the proper job, you and I can meet on site, and maybe we'll do a little
Absolutely.
homework on this, so we get it right for the clients,
Okay.
if you want.
The second issue, which I haven't done yet,
Yes.
considering what you may have come up with this, with the 18 inches, is I haven't got the plans stamped yet, and I won't stamp them until you tell me what the acceptable elevation would be.
Right, so why don't you take a look at your schedule, get yourself squared away, obviously, and then you and I can meet on site, and.
What days are you free?
It
You
varies.
can talk about that offline.
Yeah, it varies, so you can get a hold of me, and we'll see
Okay.
what works. You have my cell number,
Sounds good.
all right?
Otherwise, it's acceptable? Is that there?
He just says replant.
Yeah,
What are you putting,
No, we,
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
what are you
It's a
putting
f-
as the plants? What plants are you gonna place? You just say replant.
Yeah, you just have to get a better feel, get a better
Yeah,
description
I'll
of
give you
the.
new plans, yes.
We'll
Is that
get,
what
no,
you're saying?
make,
kind?
make a better vegetation plan, that way it's clear.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. We can
Right,
increase
so-
the vegetation
right,
and
so
stuff
after you
like that.
Right, so after you set the limit to where, on the height that makes sense, just we'll provide some good planting plans so that the board knows.
And show them on the application.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I will.
but the real discussion is about the height of the bulkhead and the
Okay.
the possible
We'll
raise.
get together on that. And I'll be hearing better then.
Right, so catch me, so we're gonna hold it pending a site visit, and then catch me, we'll make,
Yeah, but that would be the only bulkhead in that whole area that was elevated that much.
yeah, well, I know, that's why I think
Yeah.
we need to get down there and take a look at the adjoining properties, especially with the elevation that's happening to the house coming up, and see what's gonna make sense there, so.
I think that whole area is gonna be raised.
Well,
And
let's get on
In
site and
time.
take a look at the topography and figure out what's gonna make sense, especially since the houses are coming up.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
All right, so we're gonna hold that. Next one that I have is a First Coastal for 3 Harbor. 3 Harbor Lane in East Quogue. Sounds like Billy Mack, and he's here. He's got all his files, he's prepared.
Like you.
What's happening, everybody?
Hi there.
So this one we've been working on for a while, right?
Yes, Billy Mack, First Coastal.
How are you, Billy?
Very good. How's everybody? Good.
Right, James, we've been working on this one for a while.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. This is,
251 feet of existing bulkhead.
yes,
Yeah, they reduced it to 9 inches.
Right, I think that was the,
Elevation change.
that was the big issue.
the big issue was getting the elevation set, which I think you've done.
Yep, we did that and stamp plans.
And stamp plans.
I think you,
Oh, yeah. There is, I met with the owner over the weekend. They were, hemming and hawing about the 9 inches, but I got them on that. They did want to add a tile pile. I'm going to draw it right here and see if you guys have an opinion of objection.
Say it again, tile pile?
Tie-off pile.
Oh, tile.
Yeah, so his boat extends out past this dock, this little slip, and he wanted to put a tile pile in there just to secure it a little easier. I don't-
How far off you
Oh,
gotta
it's
put it?
about 6 feet off. It's definitely well inside this little
Yeah, the
shadow.
little pier line that's there with
Yeah.
that creative
What's the
thing.
address of this again?
One,
Number 3, Harbor.
3
Harbor
Harbor Lane.
Lane.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a boat slip there. There's a guy with a boat lift and big house over here.
So it would be off the little dock
Yeah,
that's
off the
there.
little slip, and yes,
And off the little
It's
dock,
not a
'cause
dock, it's
what
just
is
it's a deck that's
Oh.
in the bulkhead. So it's
Okay.
off the bulkhead
little
about
pier.
6 feet.
Yeah.
It's a little pier.
Okay,
It doesn't go, it won't be as far out as his boat is,
right. And it
but it
will
will,
It'll be
It'll
inside
be-
of this.
Yeah.
It's gotta
Exactly.
be
be
inside of that
the
pier.
eastern
yes.
The
edge
south-
of
the
the,
southerly
or the northern edge.
Right.
Yeah,
Bulkheaded.
right.
So you have to just, you gotta amend your plans.
Yeah,
and
we
your
meant the
cover sheet.
plans, we'll send those to you, I just wanted to make sure you guys
It's
didn't
gotta
have any
definitely stay
objection.
inside the pier.
So
Sorry.
this is 251 linear feet of bulkhead.
Yeah,
So they want to put single tile.
Where do we stand with a buffer? With this?
buffer
What are we
is
looking at?
all included. It's 10 foot and it's vegetated.
Okay, the whole
Yeah.
way?
12
the whole
inches
way.
OC.
Okay.
There are some walkways that are being replaced, but,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's around the dugout canal where you get in on and off the boat, so that would be.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and they're
and
minimal.
that's-
They're not,
Okay,
I think you did what
And-
yeah, there's just 10-foot buffer around the entire
okay.
slip and bulkhead.
And no fertilize, is all
No
that language
fertilize,
in there, no fertilize, and just irrigate for the first, and native plantings?
Native plantings, beach
Okay.
grass, yeah.
Yep. That's the only thing that was living at
Andrew
elevation.
said that you're handing in the copies of those. He said he
Oh.
will be handing.
Do I
them,
have
so
that?
I don't know if you have them or not, or.
What
Right
did-
here.
What did you say?
You looked like you were prepared when you walked in.
He's prepared.
Probably it, right?
Andrew has his back.
Because if they're
Ed, what
stamped, you
did you
guys
say?
can just, move to the next one if you.
Does he include the piling in
With
it
the
too?
piling,
Oh.
that's what he said in the email, so.
He
Yeah.
put the piling on already?
Yeah, because
He
it's-
did?
That's what Andrew
Andrew
said in his
said?
email, this weekend.
A party going on over here, but. All right.
Do you have everything you need, James?
Just check.
He's looking.
And you could just stay right there because we got 27 Leeward
A
next.
couple more, okay.
Go edge more after that. You put it
I'm
on.
not looking to take up time. It is right, not noted on this plan.
Yeah, we're gonna need that on the plan.
Yeah.
Can you have him just tweak it and
Yep. Yeah, we can hold this over.
put it up, well,
Or
no,
get it ready
if
by
that's the
then.
only thing, it could go and you
Yeah,
just.
that's the only,
Yeah, we just need the new plan.
Yeah, just get a new plan. I mean, if that's.
for the next work.
Correct.
For them, for
Okay.
to
Can you do that?
good, yep, sorry.
Yep.
I thought it was
You wanna
there.
hand these in, or just keep those?
No, I'll keep them and make sure you get the right ones.
All right. You good, James?
Thank you, James.
Now, don't run away.
Okay,
27 Leeward?
27 Leeward Associates LLC,
okay.
27 Leeward Lane, Quogue. This is another one I believe we've been working
We
on
did
for.
talk about this one as well,
Right.
and I think we reduced the elevation also to 9 inches.
So this one here, I think you've, you looked at this.
Yeah, and this is a very simple, straight dock with a slip in it.
Right, I think-
And we also have the 10-foot buffer. This would be loose stone as a buffer, is what they're proposing.
Why?
When this bulkhead gets overtopped, it's got some current to it.
Scours
So
out.
it's like a little bit of a scour pad, is really.
What
What-
size is the bluestone gonna be
Uh,
looking at?
It'll
Or you're gonna
be
use-
native stone.
Yeah, native
What
stone, not
si-
bluestone.
What size?
Oh, it'll be like,
See,
Three-quarters?
you see, it's commensurate with
Three-quarter
what's there
better.
now. So you have this,
You're gonna put cracked stone, or you're gonna put,
which stone?
no, no,
Oh,
here, no, here. This is what's-
like a round native.
Yeah, this is what's there now.
Yeah.
So relative to this location,
This
this,
one was discussed and you brought it back down, right?
To 9 inches, yeah.
To 9 inches.
yeah, no, we've done this, but relative to this location, this is, you know, they're being better stewards than some of the other properties that are there, so, you know, I think that you're playing ball here, you've done what we've asked you to do,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Could we consider the possibility of planting beach grass and then using the stone on top of, or intermingled?
I could suggest that to them. They were keen on the idea that the stone was there in the past, and they thought that that held up to the current better. You know, and it's odd that
You
there's
can
not
see they're
any.
pushed back here in Quag.
No, I know where it
Yeah,
is.
you can see that they're,
Yeah, it's
on
right
the
by
canal.
Post Lane.
right, they're pushed back. Other properties have
Beach Lane.
bright green grass right up to the
Yeah.
water. This one's stepped off to kind of, you know,
Give a buffer.
give a buffer there, so it is working, you know.
Is it 10 feet though at present?
It will be 10 feet.
Right.
It's
It's
not
not
10
at
feet
present.
now.
No,
So-
it's less, but they're gonna be more.
I'm just thinking in terms of overtopping, scouring the rhizomes of the
Mhm.
beach grass, we'll make a web
Yep,
beneath
yep.
that stone, so, you know, it just will fortify that a bit.
Mhm.
I mean, it's worth an ask or consideration in the future.
Yeah, I
If
brought it
not
up
at
with them.
present.
They liked the idea of the stone, so I didn't know where to go with that.
I mean, it's compliant with Blue Book,
Yeah, they don't-
and they did, you know, I think you've pretty much checked the boxes. I mean, you know, would native vegetation be better? Absolutely, it would be better.
If you went with like Cape American beach grass, you'd cut down on the likelihood of spraying Roundup on these stones to kill the invasive species that'll happen there. That's it, my only thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree.
that,
Yeah.
I could see a benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, usually,
I mean,
it's a non-treated zone. They're not allowed to do anything.
Exactly,
there,
you're
so-
technically not supposed to.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're
but-
not-
Right.
there's not a piece of grass or,
Well, maybe they're
I
weeding
hear
it.
okay,
Got the gardener weeding it, maybe,
all right.
Right.
making jobs.
right? You know what, they've met the Blue Book, so I mean, I think, you know, yeah, would native
Yeah.
vegetation be good, but it's not bad. I mean, you're pushed back. Other properties, when I ride through there, are right on the water, and they're,
I can implore them to do something, you know, I get it.
You
they're
can
new.
ask 'em.
I can ask them.
I mean, what do you-
Try to get them to do that.
so
That
Yeah.
would be much appreciated.
what do you suggest?
All right.
You want to hold
They
it?
can-
You want to have another conversation?
No, I'd rather, they're anxious to move this along, so if it's compliant and you guys think it'll move along, then happy to do that. I
And
will
then-
bring it up as a side note, for sure.
If you send them a letter, just put a copy to our office that you had correspondence with them, okay?
Okay, that's easy.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Bill.
we're letting the stone fly?
No,
For now,
don't see how you-
it's
how you
really,
not.
you know, it's a tough, that's a tough area in the village of
We need
Fork.
stamp plans, so the plans will be.
But he's
on
gonna
for the
send
next
them
work
a
session.
letter asking, and I asked for a copy for our office,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, we do need stamp
Response.
plans. If I can get them, convince them, I mean, it's their option. You know, to do that, then I'll encourage them.
Only because then they're setting an example for all the properties
Mm.
around them
Mhm.
of what to do.
One thing I do like about the stone is that, and I've seen this in the past, it's easier, it's harder to take the stone out and replace it with sod in the future,
Mm.
which I've seen that.
Yes.
well, so just take a boat ride,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying,
Pretty
it's like,
simple.
they've been good stewards of pushing it back
Yeah.
and using stones, and now they're gonna push back even farther. So they're working with the elevation, they're working with all the other stuff, and it's like, it is compliant, so it's not a bad plan, it's a good plan.
Yeah, and it
So
works.
is it always nicer to see native vegetation? Sure it is, but, you are
Well,
Compliant.
it's
Doing the
not
right
about
thing, yeah.
being nicer to see vegetation, native vegetation, it's about that it's a true benefit
it
for
is.
our marine environment.
It absolutely is, but just not in our regulations right
And I'll
now.
stress that,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And with that whole thing, it's like they have to be good stewards of those plantings, because in a lot of cases, you're at the table here, and you implore the plantings, and then you go back there and they're dead. They're not being taken care of or maintained, and then we
Or
got
Yeah.
Or
So we've
cut,
got-
or mowed.
we've got something that's,
Right,
not
not really.
working, and now you got an issue. Whereas here, you're looking at a property that is not right up to the bulkhead with a green. They've been good stewards of staying off of the waterway. They're looking to stay a little farther off, take more pressure off. So it's still, all in all,
So we can do 4 Edgemont now?
a good plan. All right, it's up to you. I'm
Yeah.
good with this. You good with this?
I'm good with this.
Moving on.
You ready, Bill?
Sure, we're going to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys got me back to back here.
Yeah,
You
Yes.
got plenty of them.
I guess so.
you're a busy guy.
4 Edgemont Drive, Southampton, OC, reconstruct in place 90 feet of existing bulkhead, increase top elevation by 18 inches, remove existing 4x60 ramp float dock, replace with a 4x71 catwalk with a 3x12 ramp down to a 6x20 float, 8-inch diameter piles, 2 of them.
Yep.
What do you got to say about that?
So this is a very low bulkhead adjacent to a property that has a high bulkhead. The bulkhead adjacent to it is higher than 18 inches, so we're proposing to go up at least 18 inches.
Yeah, just to
Just to
match
get
that
a little
Yeah.
bit higher.
What do you mean, the bulkhead to the
The bulkhead
adjacent,
to
adjacent
the
property?
south
Right,
is a good 24 inches higher than the bulkhead that exists here.
is that a permitted bulkhead?
Yeah,
Yes.
yep.
I think I
This is a
think-
very
I think-
old,
Yeah, I think this was
bulkhead.
originally built in as a retaining.
yeah. And it's functional, it's doing an okay job, it gets overtopped quite a bit. There's also an existing and permitted dock there that is mostly made out of floating, it's all floating material except for the ramp that leads to it from the bulkhead. We're thinking about replacing that with more compliant dock, elevated with through flow, and a traditional float, single 6x20 float with a ramp out at the end. There's adequate depth, it's inside the pier line, and it'll allow much more, safer and less disruptive of boating use.
Is this
on
in
that.
Woolly Pond?
Willie
Yes.
Pond,
Yeah.
yeah.
The north end, there's
Yeah,
no
I
bulkhead.
think
on the
it's,
north end.
it's one of the few docks that are left there that are all floating.
Yeah.
Most all the old floating docks that were just floating
Yeah.
docks have been upgraded since, and this is one of the last ones. But oddly, that had a permit on it, I think it was
Yeah.
1990. So, but yeah, this is,
So you're gonna put a compliant catwalk with light penetrating decking,
exactly. Bring it
And-
out to 2.5 feet of water,
which
which
the water depth should be, pretty deep there, because
Yeah.
most of it is dredged.
yeah, it drops off pretty quickly. And we can meet that pier line, we can meet the qualifications of the dock well before the pier line. Yeah, pretty,
So,
nice improvement, but.
the
hopefully we-
rise in elevation, though,
Mhm.
of the bulkhead, the property to the north,
Yes.
what's the height of that bulkhead?
There's no bulkhead on that side.
Yeah, there's no bulkhead on the north.
Right,
James here, so
Yeah.
10:30 will break for James.
You have to put the
So that-
retaining wall.
Okay, yeah.
that in is there anything on that property, or is it?
No, there's
Right.
nothing on that property.
So that's a problem.
Mhm. But you can see on that one picture, the height of the bulkhead next door, it's definitely higher.
Right, but that's not the property I'm talking about, I'm talking
Right.
about the property on the other side. So,
Yeah, they do not have a bulkhead, it's the same owner. He likes,
so when you say it's the same owner,
Mhm.
the number.
This property owner right here owns the property also
So
to the
number
north.
4 owns the one to the north.
It's a family compound.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
And there's a nice wetland right in front of
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
significant wetland
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
it's survived there for quite some time. I don't think the bulkhead has any impact to it at all.
But
So this is
if it-
just for flood protection for the existing house.
Right, but if it goes up 18 inches, what's that
It's going
gonna
up
do
9
to
inches.
the property?
Is it 9 inches?
Yeah, the
Oh,
cover sheet says
9
9
inches.
inches.
Okay, you're right.
Okay,
I think we
Thanks,
halved
James.
it already.
Because we actually talked about this before.
Yeah.
We compromised on 9 inches.
So
I was
I'm
reading the-
concerned-
I was reading the
sorry.
whole cover sheet. I wanted to see if you were gonna pay attention.
Clearly, I'm not.
Yeah.
so I'm concerned
Prepared today.
if
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
I'm
I got
concerned,
files, but nothing else.
so
Yeah.
I'm concerned,
Mhm.
even if we're only raising the bulkhead on the number 4, 9 inches, how is that gonna affect a really healthy wetland and a healthy shoreline
Mhm.
for, although it may be the same owner at this point, what about going forward?
Good question. I don't, I know that this bulkhead's been there for quite some time, and there's been no noticeable impact from this bulkhead on the wetlands because they're thriving even in front of this bulkhead. I think going up the 9 inches, as was negotiated previously, is a minimal amount to just try to help the flooding on the main property, the upland. I don't think it's gonna have any impact on the adjacent property, wetlands either. They've existed there for a long time with that bulkhead for a very long time, and they seem to be very healthy.
And he's not really raising the property behind the bulkhead.
No,
That's what he said.
yeah.
So.
It's basically just for the waves.
So, can we see the, yeah, the plan, the cross-section? So, at the end of the bulkhead, there's
Mhm.
no return?
There is a return,
Is
there's a
return.
10-foot return.
Yeah,
Okay.
right there.
So, so when it floods,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna come in from the property to the north, and it's gonna go around that return?
And that property to the north has historically been flooded,
Okay.
so I don't think anything's gonna change on that.
Yeah.
But then when it recedes
Mm-hmm.
and it comes off the subject property,
He might end up
It's
having
gonna
to put some
scour.
loopholes in.
it's gonna scour
Do that.
the property to the north. That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, it's
with
doing
that
that
healthy
now very
wetland.
frequently. Almost
But-
every spring high, it's getting flooded and
Understood.
exiting.
Right.
And there's no noticeable scour.
But with a 9-inch elevation, that's significant. So is there anything that can be done on that northern side in terms of,
But it would be all in the wetlands, so you'd be doing,
Yeah, I mean,
You're not gonna-
it's all wetlands there.
So wetlands, that breaks
So-
it down. Actually, you might have less water because you go up 9 inches, that's gonna stop some of the wave action from going over.
It'll stop most of the springs, spring high tides at least, yeah.
And
When
if you
you
end up
re-
putting some weep holes in it, like we
Yeah.
did Scuppers, we did it in Cold Spring, that
yeah,
last bulkhead.
but you're raising the bulkhead 9 inches. Are you gonna raise the elevation behind the bulkhead
No,
at all?
Well, it'll slope down.
Are you
yeah.
bringing in fill?
No, we're not. I don't think there is
Because if you
proposed
did
fill
bring in
there,
a
is
little
there?
bit of fill, then it
Yes,
wouldn't
there
fill
is.
with water.
10 yards.
Yeah, so you're raising
Is
the
that right?
bulkhead,
50
you're
yards,
raising
sorry.
the property behind it, so the flooding is not gonna be as much, so there's not gonna be as much water emptying into that
Plus,
northerly wetlands
plus a
area.
4-inch lip.
Yeah,
There's a
plus-
4-inch lip, so it would be 5
Right,
inches
so it's,
behind the
Right,
right,
bulkhead.
so it's actually,
Would raise.
You really
5-inch
not,
rise.
Yeah,
And
it's
then it'll
minimal.
have
it's a
bedding for
woolly
beach
pond,
grass.
the wave fetch is very
Right.
minimal. I mean, it would be a southwesterly wind that you would have any,
Issue
wave
with.
energy.
Yep,
And that wetlands is gonna absorb all of that, wave action, so,
as will the beach grass.
yeah, so I don't see it being negatively impacting the area. If it was like 3 miles of wave, like a.
if you were asking for 18, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
that's
you're
what we
not.
said, that's what, I think me and Ed, we both settled on 9.
I think it would, I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference in there. If you went to 18 inches, then you're gonna have a little bit of refraction off the bottom. But 9 inches is is pretty minimal. With fill, it's gonna not be that much flooding, so I don't think you're gonna get the scouring where you're gonna, have it.
Plus, that wetland on the corner holds a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
the waves.
Yeah, I
Good
know.
wave breaker. Nice healthy one.
Mhm.
No, I don't.
It may even minimize the water that's rushing out of it after, because it'll minimize the floods.
It's gonna act as a baffle.
Yeah.
This is all wetlands there.
Yeah.
You don't have, short grass, it's Phragmites.
Move it forward.
I'm okay with it, the
I'm
way it's
fine with it.
proposed.
Trustee,
Yes, fine.
Trustee Parish?
I'm fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just need the stamp plans. Billy.
Yeah, stamp plans, right.
Next one I got for you, I think that's it on my list.
There
I
are
think
two more.
I-
Ann has three.
You have one, we
I
have
have
to,
one.
we have,
I have one.
And you do
Do you
too?
want to take a break from
Well-
me for a while?
well, we have, we're gonna have to take a break in a few minutes. We have a little confidential discussion
Why
that
don't
we
we
have to have at
just run
10:30.
606 Montauk Highway.
You wanna do
Watermill?
6:06, if we
Sure.
do that in 10 minutes?
Okay,
I think so. Okay, 606, do you have that here, Bill?
I do.
606 Montauk Highway, Watermill. So this is a property right on Montauk Highway that is on Mill Creek. It's just over the bridge that goes from Mill Creek to Mill Pond, to Mecox Bay. The proposal is for a 210 foot bulkhead to be increased by 18 inches with a 10-foot wide buffer planted with beach grass. The one benefit of this proposal is it's lawn right up to the edge of the bulkhead right now, so with the buffer, I would like to see there be language in here that it's no mow, no fertilize, or in addition to the beach grass. However, I'm concerned about an 18-inch rise. If you pull up the aerial, I went over and looked from the watermill, like the actual watermill, looking back over to this property, and the properties on both sides of it do not have bulkhead. They have some sort of rock
rock,
or just
yeah.
native plantings. This is a 300-foot wide tributary off of Mill Pond. There's no wave fetch here. The flooding that occurs here is minimal at best. The bay is quite high right now because we are precluded from opening it. I took pictures of the height of the bay on the bulkhead at this point, and it's probably about 6 to 8 inches from the top with the high bay. So I don't see the need to elevate it 18 inches. So in my opinion, it should be in kind, in place with no elevation increase. But I'm open to discussion.
Okay. The other benefit is this is a creosote bulkhead, so we're happy to get that material out. I kind of agree with Ann. I think that it doesn't need to go 18 inches. And I'd be willing to convince the property owner to do something less.
So let's put it on hold.
Put it on
You
hold.
can go back and look at this site.
Well, I'd like to keep moving it, if you guys are good with me halving that to 9 inches. How do you guys feel? I know
I
feel-
don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you would prefer it at level.
Yes.
I get that,
I mean, I took pictures of it, Billy, so
yeah.
I should have gone over to the watermill to take better pictures, but you can see from these pictures that, you can see where it is on the boat.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I know at
like-
excessive high ponds,
That's
it
high.
does, elevations, it does get overtopped. So I'm,
The bay, right now, the bay is like practically at the opening line, and with our permit now being in place in Mecox, with the exception of plover
Plover
season,
season,
we're
right.
able to open now
Mhm.
in a much more managed,
Yeah.
a better
How about-
manner, so.
What is the topography or elevation change from the house to the bulkhead?
Grades
It's
up.
li-
It
yes.
slopes down to the.
Yeah.
Whichever way you're looking at it, yeah.
I mean,
To the water
is it a foot over 20 feet, or is it 2 feet over 20 feet?
It's probably 2
Do
feet.
do you have the other permits in place?
I
Because if you don't have the other permits in place, I think for the amount of
don't know
money
the
that's
answer to that.
But for the amount of money that's being spent here and for the duration of time
Yeah,
that
I'll
the
have a
structure's
conversation.
gonna be there, I really think that you need to you need to take another look at this.
All
That
right.
way, if there is something that's warranted,
Okay.
there's some sensibility to it as opposed to just negotiating indiscriminately.
No, I know
I-
that, I'm,
You know,
I don't see any other permits that have been listed here.
so why don't you take another look at this
The grass
site
is right to the
on
top of the bulkhead.
specifics.
So at least a 6-inch increase to hold the runoff back, I mean, would be,
when the
would be
pond
nice.
is high.
Yeah.
would be, would be good. But I mean, 18 inches, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's-
So,
Yeah.
I can go back and take these pictures, so at this point, it's 6 to 8 inches, the water level is 6 to 8 inches down on the bulkhead, and this is a high bay.
When
So
is your-
if you're saying 6 inches on top of that, when did I
When are you
take
planning,
pictures? This
no, when are
morning.
you planning on letting the pond again?
As soon as we can, we have
It was
plovers.
plover season, so we're waiting on authorization. We didn't-
Well,
we
my
haven't-
thought is that I know it'll come up more, maybe I can, look at it again.
Yeah. But with
Um,
6 inches, you're only gonna have a 2-inch increase behind it, and you're gonna have a 4-inch lip, which just doesn't have to
Yeah.
slow the runoff going into the,
Yeah.
creek there.
However, a buffer works in the same way.
Yeah, but
A
it's,
significant
it's
buffer.
also pitched too, so you
Yeah,
gotta,
it's-
I'm
you
trying
got a
to.
lot- It's a large
Yeah.
area of
You know-
water, get a heavy rain.
Yeah,
All right, why don't you
I'll go back.
You go back. Let's get some,
How is it?
spend a lot of money and a lot of time on this.
Let's.
Let's,
Hits the opening mark.
let's
4 inches?
Let's try and do a good
2
job.
inches?
Good.
Not even.
Folks,
All right, well, let's get that measurement so we can incorporate it
I
in
think
this.
it's 10:30. I think we had a planned discussion
So,
for confidential legal
We're
advice.
holding
We're gonna
this?
hold
It's-
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Billy.
You're welcome.
I think we need to take a break.
Are you going?
long this is gonna be?
I don't see it being any more than 20 to 30 minutes.
So this is just a pause?
Just a pause, and then we're gonna have to come back.
Scott, if you're pausing for exec, and just state that on the record and take the vote to enter into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that as soon as, Charles, you done asking questions?
Yeah, I just need to know what's going on.
We're gonna motion to take a pause in our meeting for the purposes of the board to receive some scheduled confidential legal information and advice, and then we'll come back into work session once that's done. Should not be a long discussion.
Thank you, everybody.
Is there a
Sorry.
second for that?
Second.
Second, are we all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
so
Sorry for your time.
we have to have a conversation, and then we'll come back into session as quickly as we can, so.
If they-
Thanks for
you have to-
understanding.
They should leave, take your stuff with you.
Gavel.
Oh, yes.
Thanks, Charles.
Hey, Scott, can I ask this?